What if nothing belongs to you? A Buddhist truth that will change your life. Imagine a moment in your life when everything you thought you owned suddenly slips through your fingers. Your body ages, memories fade, and relationships you've held onto for a lifetime can change overnight. Have you ever wondered, do the things you cling to truly belong to you? We spend our lives building a world around us. Our homes, our belongings, our reputation, even our memories. But what happens when everything you believe is yours turns out to be temporary, not meant to last? This video is not just a lesson in Buddhism, but a deep exploration into how we must change the way we perceive ownership and the impermanence of life. What if everything you are holding onto might not be yours to keep? Watch this entire video to uncover one of life's deepest truths. Don't miss out on the incredibly valuable insights that could change the way you see the world and yourself. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any life-changing content. In the great dance of life, we often become so entangled in our attachments that we forget the most profound truth of all. Nothing truly belongs to us. We gather possessions, we build reputations, we craft identities, and in the process we come to believe that these things define us. We hold on to our homes, our cars, our clothes, our jobs, and even our family and friends as if they are permanent aspects of who we are. We say, "This is mine," and in our hearts we carry this belief with such certainty. Yet, if we take a moment to pause and reflect deeply, we might begin to see the truth, a truth that Buddhism teaches, that nothing, not even our very bodies, is truly ours. Take, for example, the inevitable process of aging. Despite our best efforts, no matter how many healthy foods we consume or how many miles we run, we cannot stop time. Our bodies, which we tend to view as our personal property, change in ways we cannot control. We grow older, the skin becomes less elastic, the joints stiffen, the hair turns gray. Our muscles lose strength, and we find that the once quick mind begins to slow. If we truly had control over our bodies, wouldn't we be able to stop aging? Wouldn't we be able to command our bodies to stay young, healthy, and vibrant forever? And yet, despite all our attempts to control the aging process, we cannot. The body ages, just as everything else in the universe does. This is what the Buddha referred to as anicca, the principle of impermanence. Everything in the physical world is transient, including our bodies. To resist this fact, to fight against the inevitability of aging, is to invite suffering. But it's not just our physical bodies we cling to. Our minds, too, are in a constant state of flux. Have you ever tried to quiet your thoughts, only to find them continuously jumping from one idea to another? Some are pleasant, others unpleasant, but none of them ask for our permission to arise. They emerge spontaneously, often without warning. This constant ebb and flow of thoughts reflects the impermanence of our minds. Just as our bodies change, so too do our thoughts, feelings, and even our identity. Have you ever tried to hold a thought? We believe we can control our thoughts, shape them, mold them into something that fits our desires. But the truth is that thoughts are elusive. They arise, they linger, and then they vanish. And just as we cannot control the physical world around us, we cannot control the world inside our minds. This realization can be deeply unsettling because we have spent so many years building an identity around the thoughts and emotions we believe belong to us. We think, "I am my thoughts, I am my identity," and we become attached to them. Yet the more we grasp at them, the more we realize how fleeting they are. The self we so tightly cling to is just as transient and impermanent as our thoughts. This deep awareness of impermanence can be deeply unsettling, especially for those of us who have spent a lifetime building a sense of security around the things we believe are ours. We accumulate possessions, craft identities, build relationships, and create reputations as if these things are permanent and define who we are. And yet, the more we hold on to these things, the more fragile they seem to become. The tighter we cling to our possessions, our relationships, our reputation, and even our own identity, the more we suffer. This paradox is at the heart of the Buddha's teachings. The things we believe we own, the things we believe give us security, are actually the very sources of our anxiety and fear. Imagine for a moment that you are holding a heavy bag. At first, the weight doesn't seem so bad. Perhaps you even think to yourself, I need to carry this bag to feel secure. But after some time, the weight becomes unbearable. The bag, once something you believed was manageable, now feels too heavy to carry. The longer you hold on to it, the more exhausting it becomes. Eventually, you find yourself worn out, struggling just to keep it in your grasp. This is how attachment works. We believe that holding tightly to our possessions, our identity, and our sense of control will give us security. But in reality, the more we hold on, the more we suffer. Attachment becomes a burden that weighs us down, and instead of providing security, it only leads to weariness. The Buddha teaches us that true peace comes not from clinging, but from letting go. Letting go is not the same as abandoning our responsibilities, rejecting the world, or ceasing to care for others. Letting go is not about giving up what we love or care about. It is about recognizing that everything is impermanent, and nothing in this world truly belongs to us. The more we try to control, possess, or cling to something, the more we invite suffering into our lives. When we begin to let go, we free ourselves from the anxiety and fear that accompany the belief that we must hold onto what is already slipping away. The Buddha provides a poignant teaching on this through a story of a wealthy merchant. One day, a merchant came to the Buddha, troubled by the constant fear and anxiety he felt over losing his wealth. He asked the Buddha, "How can I find peace when I am always worried about losing my possessions?" The Buddha's response was simple but profound. "Give away what you cannot keep." At first, the merchant misunderstood the Buddha's words, thinking that the Buddha was advising him to part with his material wealth. But the Buddha's teaching was deeper than that. He was not suggesting that the merchant should simply give away his material wealth. He was teaching him to let go of the attachment to those things. The merchant's wealth was never truly his to begin with. It was temporary, fleeting, and subject to change. Just as the merchant could not hold onto his wealth forever, we too cannot hold onto anything in life. Our possessions, our relationships, and even our identity are not truly ours. They are borrowed from the world and subject to the law of impermanence. By releasing the attachment to them, we are able to experience true peace. When we come to terms with the impermanence of life, we can begin to let go of the fear and anxiety that arise from clinging. This doesn't mean that we stop caring for others or stop fulfilling our responsibilities. It doesn't mean that we reject the world or withdraw from life. Rather, it means that we begin to see things as they truly are, impermanent, fleeting, and beyond our control. When we accept the reality that nothing is permanent, we find freedom from the anxiety that comes from trying to hold on to things that were never ours to control. We are able to open our hands and embrace life as it is. This practice of letting go is not about losing, but about freeing ourselves from the grasp of attachment. We are not rejecting the people we love, the things we value, or the experiences we cherish. We are simply learning to hold them lightly, without the fear of losing them. The more we release our grip on these impermanent things, the more we allow ourselves to experience the freedom that comes from acceptance. Buddhism teaches us that everything in life is temporary. Our possessions, our bodies, our relationships, everything is subject to change. The tighter we hold on to these things, the more we suffer. By recognizing the impermanence of life, we can find the freedom to live fully without the burden of attachment. As we continue on the path of life, we are constantly faced with the challenge of letting go. Whether it is the aging of our bodies, the loss of possessions, or the changing nature of relationships, we are continually confronted with the truth of impermanence. But instead of resisting this truth, we can choose to embrace it. By loosening our grip on the things we believe are ours, we can find peace. Letting go is not a loss, but a freedom from the anxiety and fear that comes from attachment. The Buddha teaches us that true peace comes from acceptance, from letting go of the need to control, possess, or hold onto anything. When we release the attachment to what is fleeting, we open ourselves to the beauty of life as it is. In this openness, we find a freedom that no amount of possessions or status could ever provide. This is the path to true happiness and peace, the path of letting go. One of the fundamental aspects of human existence is the craving for control. We are often led by the belief that if we just try hard enough, we can control every aspect of our lives. We try to control our appearance, our health, our relationships, and even the way others perceive us. But this belief in control is at odds with the very nature of life itself, which is unpredictable and impermanent. In Buddhist philosophy, the illusion of control is intimately tied to desire. Desire is the root cause of much of our suffering, according to the Buddha. We desire security, comfort, recognition, and stability, things that provide us with a sense of control. But as the Buddha teaches, the more we desire, the more we feed the cycle of attachment. The more tightly we grip our desires, the more pain and frustration we experience when they go unmet or when they inevitably change. Take, for instance, the pursuit of material wealth. How often do we believe that if we can just accumulate enough money, possessions, or status, we will be content? We chase after these things, often at the expense of our relationships, our health, and our peace of mind. Yet no matter how much we achieve, the satisfaction is fleeting. The more we possess, the more we feel we need. This cycle of craving, achieving, and craving again is endless. In Buddhism, this cycle of desire and suffering is called samsara. It is the wheel of life that we continually spin by clinging to the impermanent. The more we attach ourselves to things that are not permanent, the more we remain trapped in this cycle. True liberation, as taught by the Buddha, comes from breaking free of this cycle, by letting go of desire and recognizing that nothing, absolutely nothing, can be permanently ours. One of the most powerful tools for letting go is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being present in the moment, fully aware of what is happening without judgment or attachment. It is about observing life as it unfolds, without trying to control it or manipulate it to fit our desires. Through mindfulness, we can observe our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without becoming entangled in them. When we are mindful, we can begin to see how much of our suffering is caused by our attachments. For instance, when we feel anger or frustration, mindfulness allows us to observe these emotions without immediately reacting. Instead of allowing these emotions to control us, we can simply notice them, understand that they are temporary, and let them go. This practice of mindfulness helps us understand that our emotions, just like everything else in life, are transient. Mindfulness also helps us understand the nature of our attachments. By practicing awareness in each moment, we can begin to recognize when we are clinging to something, whether it's a thought, a feeling, or an object. When we are mindful, we can ask ourselves, am I holding on to this because I believe it will give me security? Am I afraid to let go of this because I fear what will happen if I do? This practice of self-inquiry helps us uncover the root causes of our attachments and allows us to slowly release them. One of the most challenging aspects of letting go is dealing with relationships. We often believe that our relationships with others, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners, are the most essential part of who we are. We attach ourselves to the idea of being loved, valued, and needed. We fear losing those connections, and in our fear, we try to control or possess the people in our lives. In Buddhism, attachment to others is seen as one of the most potent sources of suffering. When we cling to a person, we are not truly loving them. Instead, we are using them to fulfill our own needs and desires. We want them to behave in certain ways to meet our expectations and to make us feel secure. But this is not love, this is attachment. True love, according to Buddhist teachings, is unconditional and free from attachment. When we love without attachment, we allow others to be who they truly are. We support and care for them without trying to control or possess them. This type of love brings freedom to both ourselves and to those we love. Take, for example, the relationship between a parent and a child. Often, parents become so attached to their children that they try to control their every move, fearing for their safety and future. This attachment can suffocate the child, preventing them from growing into their full potential. True love, however, allows a parent to support their child while also giving them the freedom to explore life and make their own decisions. Similarly, in romantic relationships, attachment can lead to possessiveness, jealousy, and fear of abandonment. We cling to our partner, trying to control their actions and thoughts to ensure they remain committed to us. This type of attachment often leads to frustration and unhappiness because we are relying on another person to give us the security and happiness we seek. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to cultivate loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna, which are rooted in non-attachment and understanding. Another powerful practice in Buddhism that supports the path of letting go is the practice of generosity, or dana. Generosity is not just about giving material possessions. It is about loosening our grip on the belief that what we own is permanently ours. Through generosity, we begin to train ourselves to hold things lightly and to see the value in giving without expecting anything in return. Generosity can take many forms, giving our time, our resources, our love, or even our attention. When we give freely, we are reminding ourselves that nothing truly belongs to us. By sharing what we have, we are acknowledging the impermanence of life and the interconnectedness of all beings. We come to realize that our possessions, our time, and our energy are not for us to hoard, but to share with others. Generosity is a powerful antidote to attachment. When we are generous, we open our hearts and minds to others. We let go of the need to possess or control, and in doing so, we experience a deep sense of joy and freedom. The more we practice generosity, the more we cultivate an attitude of non-attachment, and the more we experience the peace that comes with letting go. Perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of attachment is our attachment to the self. We construct an identity around our experiences, our memories, and our desires. We tell ourselves stories about who we are, and we become attached to these stories. But in Buddhism, the self is seen as an illusion, an ever-changing process rather than a fixed entity. The Buddha teaches that the belief in a permanent, unchanging self is the root of much suffering. We cling to our sense of identity as if it is something solid and unchanging. But in reality, our identity is constantly shifting. Our thoughts, feelings, and experiences are in a constant state of flux. The person we were 5 years ago is not the person we are today, and the person we are today will not be the person we are 5 years from now. By letting go of the attachment to a fixed identity, we open ourselves to the possibility of growth and transformation. We allow ourselves to be fluid, adaptable, and open to the changes that life brings. When we stop clinging to a rigid sense of who we are, we can experience greater peace and freedom. We are no longer bound by the constraints of our past or our expectations for the future. One of the most profound aspects of the Buddha's teachings is the understanding that life itself is a flow, a continuous movement of change. Nothing stays the same. The seasons change, our bodies change, our thoughts change, and our relationships change. Rather than resisting this flow, we are invited to embrace it. The beauty of life lies in its impermanence. Imagine a river flowing gently through a valley. The water moves constantly, never staying in one place for too long. The river does not try to hold on to the water, it simply allows it to flow. In the same way, we are invited to let go of our attachments and embrace the flow of life. When we stop clinging to the past or fearing the future, we can fully engage with the present moment, experiencing the joy and beauty of life as it is. The path to liberation is a path of letting go. It is a path of recognizing that nothing in life is permanent, that everything is fleeting, and that our attachments are the source of our suffering. By loosening our grip on the things we believe belong to us, we can experience true freedom. The Buddha's teachings show us that by embracing impermanence and practicing non-attachment, we can find peace. We can live fully in the present moment without the burden of clinging to what is temporary. We can let go of our desire for control, our attachment to possessions, and our belief in a fixed identity. In doing so, we find a deeper connection to life, to others, and to ourselves. Ultimately, letting go is not about losing. It is about opening our hands to the flow of life and embracing the beauty of impermanence. Through this practice, we discover the true freedom that comes from releasing what was never truly ours to begin with. This is the path to lasting peace and happiness. How do you feel after hearing these insights? Are you starting to realize that we're often chasing things that we can never truly hold on to? The more tightly we grasp onto what we think is ours, the more exhausted, anxious, and suffering we create for ourselves. What we really need isn't possession, but the ability to let go and live authentically. Buddhism teaches us that only when we learn to let go and embrace impermanence can we truly live in peace and freedom. What about you? What will you do with the things you thought you owned in this life? If this video has helped you uncover profound and useful truths about life, don't forget to share it with your loved ones and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any more valuable videos we share. Don't miss the wisdom that can help you live a better life. Live a life that isn't afraid of loss, but full of freedom and tranquility in the heart. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.